Hey, this is Dave from metalepidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. Guys, Dave here from Metal Epidemic. Hope you are all well, and thanks for checking out our latest review. And for this review, Duncan Kyle and myself have been checking out the new album from Danish metal quartet Ghost Iris. The band's new album Comatose was released on May 7th via Long Branch Records. So, these guys have been active since around 2015, and Comatose will be album number 4 from Ghost Iris, which follows up their critically acclaimed 2019 album Apple of Discord. Apple of Discord was my introduction to Ghost Iris in 2019, and that album totally blew me away. Didn't know anything about the band at the time when I heard it, and it was in my top 5 albums of 2019. Just a perfect blend of huge riffs and really kind of striking vocal melodies. Style-wise, they probably weave between like progressive metal. There's some groove metal in there, a little bit of tech metal, sort of a touch of hardcore in there at times as well. Vocally though, the band's frontman Jesper has the kind of visceral pipes to add backbone to those styles, but he also has a clean tone that is just unbelievably smooth and really distinctive as well.
It's like honey on the tongue, Dave. Honey on the tongue.
Yes.
Sweet and smooth.
I think, did I tell you about Apple of Discord? I think I did recommend that at the time, didn't I?
So this is once again linking to another review we've already done tonight. This was like, must have paid Facebook for sponsors or something, because this album artwork was all over my Facebook for about a month before you finally sent me a message saying like that. Oh, I checked it this today. You should listen to it. And I was like, yes, Dave. But we don't have a podcast or a review thing yet, because this is only 2019, so I will sit on this for a month, and then I will come back to you a month later claiming I found the band, which is what happened. I came to you and I was like, have you heard this yet? And you were like, I told you about this. And I was like, that is right. You win again, Buchanan. But yeah, like, so I think I was about a month behind you, but it was played to death in 2019. Still gets played a lot. Apple Discord, it's a great fun. For all the reasons you said, some of the melodies on that are just jaw-droppingly fucking good.
We then reacted to the first single from this album.
Yes. I made statements on that, and then it turned out that my statements were like, I think I might be like clairvoyant or something, because my statements are weirdly prescient. Because on that reaction, I was like, that there's a hint of Chimera in this, Dave. Like, kind of hint of the possibility of reason era Chimera. Era Chimera, see what I'm doing? And then Dave said, their album's coming out, and guess what, by the way? Former Chimera frontman Mark Hunter's on it. And I was like, well, there you go. There you go. I rest my case, Your Honour.
Fair play. Part of me was a little bit worried when I heard that first single.
It's off-piste.
Because it seemed like they'd abandoned all the clean melodies. I was like, what's going on here? I mean, I loved the track, Paper Tiger, great track, just balls to the wall, heavy as fuck on all fronts from start to finish.
But it's a single, so you would expect the melodies to be in the single. Bands that have melody in them tend not to lead with the track that doesn't have melody, because you're instantly you're either making a statement, and that statement is, from this release, this is what you can expect from the album, which is no melody, or this is a much heavier album, or something along those lines, or changing sound, or something. You're making a statement by picking that, and I was kind of with you, because like otherwise you start to sound like a lot of other bands that don't have that melody, and I'm like, that's what made you different. And that, like, one of the melodies on Apple of Discord were one of my favourite things about Ghost Iris, so I was a bit like, oh, what's going on? We even like questioned whether like had the band changed members or something like that, but apparently not. Nope. But I needn't have panicked at all, because as the singles started to come out, the other singles, then it was clear that the clean melodies were still there. Through them, Dave.
And basically the guys have given me exactly what I wanted from this new album. As I was listening to this album, I was just really impressed with the quality of the tracks on this album. They've released 3 singles so far at the time of this recording anyway. But to be honest, there's at least 8 of the 10 tracks that could have worked as a single, to be honest. The quality of it is that good, and every track has something about it that stands out. Sometimes it's just a huge riff or a cool rhythm or a vocal melody that gets stuck in your head. They've really put a lot of time and effort into creating an album that flows really well. It's heavy as a motherfucker, but it's also really memorable. The vocal melodies on this are, once again, just super infectious, but they haven't watered down at all. Like, as catchy as this album is, it's still an absolute monster when it comes to the riffs. We've heard quite a few metal bands, in inverted commas, put out some of their most commercial material to date over the last kind of 6 months, a year. Architect's been a prime example of that. But for me, those bands have lost a part of what made them cool in the first place in the process of that. And I know I'm probably in the minority there because the new Architect albums seem to do very well. But what I love about Ghost Iris is they haven't lost their edge in any way. For every soaring vocal melody they have on this album, it's bookended with a riff that will split you in half, you know what I mean? And as you said, like we mentioned on the reaction about the Chimera thing, and at that point we didn't know that Mark Hunter actually does guest on another track on the album, Desert Dread. But it's not the only track that gives off that kind of early 2000s feel of Chimera. Former Self and the final track, Closing Schism, also has some of those kind of Chimera type rhythms to it. I also really liked, there's a track called Cult, which I really liked. Has a very like kind of intervals type chorus to it. It's quite anthemic, but again, it's surrounded by massive riffs just to balance the track out. I picked up a little bit of, there's a tiny wee touch of 36 Crazy Fists actually on Ebb Flow, I think it's called, just in the way they kind of splice some of the melodic lead work into the main riff. And then similarly, they're a bit of a kind of Heart of a Coward swagger on some of the kind of verse riffs on Cold Sweat. But even though I mentioned these bands, it never feels like Ghost Iris are coming across like a sound-alike band. They have their own sound and they put their own spin on things. I say that the biggest surprise for me on this album was track 5, Former Self. Although it starts off fairly kind of brutal and riff heavy, the melodies on that chorus are like something you'd hear from like the Damned Things or something like that. And it sounds kind of odd saying it out loud, but it really works as a track within the context of the album. I really loved this album, just kind of start to end. A really strong release. It was always like going to be difficult to try and better or even equal Apple of Discord, but I honestly believe they've managed it on Comatose. I think they've put an even bigger stamp of personality on this album. If I heard one of these tracks playing in a bar or a club, I'd know straight away that this is Ghost Iris. And I think if this album doesn't do huge things for this band, then the music industry is a fucking sham. To be honest, it ticks nearly every box, to be honest. I think it's an extremely strong release across the board. My only gripe about the album is it's not necessarily anything I haven't heard other bands try and do before, but Ghost Iris are exceptionally good at it. So that's my thoughts on that. Duncan, what did you think of Comatose?
I'm going to echo a lot of what you've just said there. Surprise, surprise, Dave. No, so like your closing statement is basically kind of how I was going to start off with, which is
okay.
It's kind of impossible on some level to conceive a band going back into the studio and sitting there and going, right, we need to write a better album than Apple of Discord because it was such a fucking banger. It was just a great fucking album. And kind of what I like about this is it appears that they didn't set out to do Apple of Discord 2. You know what I mean? Instead, what they've done is started to kind of branch out some of those influences, branch out some of those sounds. and acquire some new skills, which I really enjoyed here. There is, I think, it's difficult to shine away. There is a big Chimera influence in here, specifically in the guitar and drum work. Maybe not necessarily on the vocal work, but certainly on the drums. Some of that kind of how did we class it again? The new wave of American-ish, or whatever the, I don't know, because we name things. It can't just be metal. We have to fucking slap a tag on it that makes it sound fancy in magazines. There's a bit of that, because Chimera were they were lumped into that group, but they weren't really in that group, if you know what I mean. They were doing something a bit heavier, something a bit more technical, and it's all over this album. It's absolutely all over this album. I think it's interesting as well, because the album starts purposely not as melodic as you think it's going to be. So realistically, it isn't until you get to Cult that you really start getting the bang huge melody. So a intro track, Desert Dread has some, but not lots. Paper Tiger doesn't really have any. And then, boom, track 4 is the band that you kind of expect. So there's a kind of uneasiness, because unlike yourself, I didn't listen to any of the singles after Paper Tiger. So that was my...
Right.
This is how this album's going to sound, because that's the single you came out with, and that's a statement of intent. And the first two tracks in the intro kind of cement that, this is our new sound. And I was alright with it. I was like, this is cool. Like you, I really like Paper Tiger. I think it's a great single. And I was like, right, cool. So I just need to accept this and move on. And then, boom, the melody hits, and I'm like, there we go. And it just is, melodies in this album, I think, are better than the previous album. I think he's doing stuff here that's far more interesting, and I think that's in part because the guitars are doing different stuff this time around. There's a lot more kind of rhythm based work, which I really enjoyed. I think it makes it sound tight. There are huge sections where the band just really start to explore what they're doing in a really interesting way. The production is on fucking point on this. It's punchy where it needs to be. The guitars are not detuned either. From what I could hear, they're not sitting at some ridiculous Kyle-esque Ning string level, but they're and they'll be playing like stuff in a range which doesn't feel all that heavy, but has all the punch and energy, and then they just drop it down a level, and when that drop comes in, I'm like, fuck yes. It's just a really exciting, really interesting album, and this one is one that demands repeat listening. This is of the mistakes I made this week, ladies and gents, which you once again may have already heard in a previous recording, but we'll probably hear again. I only listened to 2 of the 4 albums for the majority of the week, and then had to cram listen to the other 2 today because I didn't realise we're in there. So Ghost Iris has been on repeat pretty much since I got it. Ghost Iris and Capra have been getting played to death, and it's been a great week. It's been a fucking great, because it's just exciting. Once again, another band that is clearly leading forward from a kind of early 2000s influence, and I am cool with that. It seems, if anything, I think Chimera are the sort of band, and once again, they have elements are not Chimera sounding, but Chimera are the sort of band that if Chimera started now and started putting out those albums, they would do really well now. I think the genre hasn't moved so far away from what they were doing that it seems dated by any stretch of imagination. Where I would argue, if you put some of those other bands from that era, like if you brought in Alive But Still Breathing, or Just Breathing, sorry, by Killswitch, and you release that now, it's going to be like, it's going to a bit cringy, whereas Chimera never really had that. And I think Ghost Iris have captured the best elements of that for what they're doing, but they've branched it out and brought a whole new set of personality, skills, flavours, textures in there. The band are really, 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 really good. The melody, to me, is what makes the band exceptional. And I hope they never go away from that, because Jasper's vocals, specifically on this one, the way he's not singing things that are like mind blowing, but his tone cuts through anything that's been played. His vocals come in, it grabs your attention. It's amazing. This is a great fucking album. I think I prefer this to Apple of Discord, and that's after a week of constant listening. I will go back and play the 2 of them back to back and see if I'm right, but at the moment I feel I'm right. It's a really exciting sound, and once again, an exciting band who should be a lot bigger. And I'm with you on the Architects thing. That you can go melodic, you can put melody in your songs, you can change your formula, and you can go a bit radio friendly. But when you lose the element that made you special altogether, that got you from the quote unquote underground and raised you up on that standing, and then you essentially stand on stage and piss on the people that listen to that music, I think you're doing a disservice to not only the fans that put you there, but also you're talking about I'm in the minority. I don't think you're in the minority. Architects got a #1 album, right, of people that have not listened to their early stuff. Because that's not the same band. It doesn't even remotely sound the same band. And no one that's getting into the Architects just now is going back and listening to Hollow Crown and going, well, this is a masterpiece. They're not doing that. So you've went through that level and they've just moved out of that level. Whereas a band like Ghost Iris use a combination perfectly. They know when to put that melody in, and at no point is it like, well, guys, if this melody is going to work, we need keyboards only in the background, and the drummer needs to play maracas. It's not like that, you know what I mean? It's like it fits the music perfectly in the best traditions of that block of kind of Scandinavian countries that do that. They bring in melody, but the melody they bring in, bands like Soilwork are great examples. They bring the melody in, but at no point does that mean the music tones down. If anything, it usually means the music tones up. Comatose is a fucking great album. Will definitely be talked about at the, I'm trying to think, July 2021 podcast where we do the top 10 albums of the year so far, because it's in there for me. I think it's fucking great.
Nice. Kyle, you were with us on the reaction. You quite enjoyed Paper Tiger. What did you make of the rest of Comatose?
The Dream Killer.
I'm going to
feel like Kyle
preface
should have
this.
his own theme tune.
He should.
Yeah. I could make it.
He's got a statement to release before he does his review. This is not going to bode well for his buddy.
Here we go.
It's a public service announcement from the Dream Killer. Dream Killer Inc. Here we go.
I'm definitely going to preface this by saying this band knows how to write some fucking sick riffs. And they really do. And they know how to put that melody in, like you said. But I mean, Metalcore's hit or miss with me as well. And for this one, it put me off right away in the first track, the very first 10 seconds with that fucking shitty snare sample. It goes, and I was just like, why? The rest of it is so good. The guitar tone is so unbelievably thick in your ears. It's like being slapped in the face by, I'm not going to mention, I'm sure Duncan can imagine what I mean.
A big Bobby, yeah.
Yeah. A brown stallion, yeah. And all of that, it works really well. And their songwriting's actually quite good. And you said the Jasper's the vocalist, his voice is really, really good. Like the clean stuff especially, I really did kind of gravitate more to the clean stuff than the heavy stuff, because I don't know if other bands have ripped off this band, or if this band have just lumped themselves in with the rest of the fucking metalcore crowd and said, we're going to do a dirty verse and a clean chorus. I'm kind of sick of hearing that. I'm just like, do something new. And they're trying to do something new, I can hear it, but it's all let down by being time-aligned crap. And there's fucking every drum is a sample.
He was going to be. You knew it was coming sometime tonight.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is the only time we're going to hear this tonight. So
no, it
ain't.
Oh no.
And it's like, you take all the honesty from the voice and all of the songwriting they can do, and you just get in the studio and you go, it doesn't matter how you played it. We're just going to line it right up here on a grid. There you go. Yeah. You were talking about how they're so tight before. It's just like, yeah, because the producer fucking aligned it all. We have no idea if they're tight or not. They might suck.
They're a tight band. Don't you ever. How dare you?
Yeah, they're tight on the record because the producer fixed their shit.
And watch the live videos. They're fucking really fucking good.
All right. Well,
Me and Dave wouldn't listen to
album?
just a studio band, Kyle.
Yeah.
Trust us. Look, we're honest faces. If we tell you they're good,
I agree.
they're good.
I'm glad.
For that style, though, I mean, it's fairly common for that to happen. We've spoken about hardcore albums and
If you're a band and you have a drummer in your band, put the drummer on the goddamn record. He's got the credit in the liner notes. He's been offered his share of the royalties for a computer that did his
But
job.
he is on the record. They've just switched his snare sound for another. That's all. It's a
He's
different
not on
tone.
the record.
How?
He might have played it
Yeah,
through
so he's on the
triggers
record.
or through an electric thing, but then
Yeah.
they took whatever sounds he made with the drums and turned them into samples of another drummer making different sounds with a different drum and a different stick. And then they told a computer, just fix all this, and they turned it all to MIDI. So he's not there anymore. He might have written it. He might have played
I
it in.
disagree. I
But he's-
disagree.
all of the sounds and all of his performance, everything that makes that drummer is gone because it's all time aligned. You're a drummer, you know this.
If a guitarist plays the guitar, records guitar, and it gets reamped, is that guitarist not on the album?
No, because he still played that guitar. He
Well,
just
that's
played
what
it
I'm
through a
saying. The
different
drummer
amp.
still
No,
played those drums.
yeah,
They've just
the
changed
drummer
the sound.
played those drums, but they changed the sound and they changed his performance because it's all time aligned. He may have written the specific part, but all of the nuances to make him that specific drummer, like we were talking about before on the other ones, the things that make that drummer, like the missed hit there, the
That's
missed kick,
hardcore,
the
though.
missed.
That's not this.
Yeah, I know, and that's what
This is
turns me off.
technical.
This is what turns me off about hardcore and this kind of stuff. It's just like, why fucking bother? You might as well just sit there with a keyboard and just go, you know.
I mean, I get it when it sounds just like digital rave drums.
But this does.
That point.
It does. Every drum sample is the same. It's just a. It's the same one. There's no.
I disagree.
I listened to it 5 times, and I was like, yeah, it just. And all the guitars are aligned to that as well, and the bass as well. And it's just like, why bother? You may as well. That could have been any musician.
Maybe, just maybe, it's played to a metronome and they're that good.
You'd have to be fucking Meshuggah to be that good.
Maybe.
Nobody's
Meshuggah-
But
Meshuggah.
Meshuggah's timelined.
Meshuggah released an album that was all digital fucking drums.
Exactly.
Yeah, but then they came out with the Violent Sleep of Reason, which was not.
Yeah, but that's
And that was played live off the floor, and that's not time aligned because I watched the producer
but then
tune.
does
They've
that
got
mean- does
albums
that mean
that
you
are
only listen-
timelined.
does that mean
They've
you
got
only
albums
like
that are
that album,
sampled.
though?
Yeah, I
Superior
know they've
drummer.
got and they're not my favourite albums from Meshuggah. Let's put
But
it
you
that
don't
way.
think they're bad albums, though?
I'm not saying this is a bad album. I'm just saying the production lets it down because where I want to listen to an album and hear the musicians play what they want to play and say what they want to say, but it's all fixed and made artificial by a computer. And I'm like, if I wanted that, I'll go listen to synthwave.
We are once again, ladies
I know.
and gents,
Yeah.
at an
Disagree.
impasse here.
Yeah.
This is
I
the
completely.
this is the Gandalf.
But for me,
you
it just
shall
doesn't
not
work
pass
for me. I know it's a
conversation.
personal preference, and I'm just
Yeah,
sat here
yeah.
like, why the fuck? I mean, I use sample drums in my music because I can't play the drums very well. I don't have the space for a drum kit. I want to write music and play it, right? That's fair enough. Make music whatever goddamn way you can is my thing. If you want to use sample drums, absolutely do it. That's up to you. But if you're a band that says we've got a drummer, what the fuck are you doing that for?
I think at times there are choices and decisions that are made to make music sound tighter. I think drums can spill, and then you have a producer going in to specifically tighten up those spill sounds, which to me is not how they were played live anyway. So I think on that level, there's always going to be a level of, unless it's played live in a room, there's always going to be a level of fuckery in there. The degrees of which that fuckery are
On every instrument.
yeah, on absolutely
I
100%
agree.
on every
Yeah,
instrument.
absolutely. I completely agree.
I once sang on.
I just feel like this genre goes too far.
I listened to this, and at no point did I think, you know what, computer drums, and that never even crossed my mind once. And I'm now preconditioned because of these.
That's what I'm saying.
conversations
The
to
first
look
track
for
did
it.
that to me. I probably wouldn't have thought so bad about it either if it wasn't for that shit fucking snare sample on the very first track, doing his little snare rolls, and it was like, this is one sample. Can you not try and like liven it up a little? It just makes things sound dead to me. It's just not. We could go on about this all night. I'm just saying this is not for me. Just that kind of thing just kills a record for me. I'm like, this could have been, for me, it could have been amazing because the riffs are sick as fuck. They really are. They know how to write good songs and they know how to sing. And I would like to hear this band do a clean album with no heavy.
I
would
they could do
love
it as
to
well.
hear them.
Yeah,
I think they
could do an
could pull it
acoustic
off.
album. For
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Even just clean electric guitar. I think it would be incredible.
Okay, fair enough. Ratings for the new album from Ghost Iris. I will kick us off here. I was really impressed with this. I was a big fan of their previous album, and I was worried that they weren't going to be able to better this album, but I think they've absolutely equaled it. Time will tell whether I think it's a better album than Apple of Discord. At the moment, I can't pick between the two, but scoring on this one, I'd probably go in at 4.5. Duncan, what did you think?
we shall align on our 4.5. You and me and two of the friends, simultaneous loving, baby. 2 or 3, simultaneous.
Excellent. And Kyle?
I'm gonna align with you two, but -1. So 3.5. Because even though the production isn't for me, the song's really well done, and the guitar tone is fucking fantastic, and that dude can sing like a motherfucker. So
3.5. Okay. Boom. This one drops on the 7th of May on Long Branch Records. The album is called Comatose by Ghost Irish. If you want to check these guys out, it's facebook.com/Ghost Irish. I'll put a link. Did I say Irish there?
I did
Ghost
as well,
Irish.
which, by the way, I want that band to exist as well.
Ghost
Top of the
Irish.
morning to you, we're Ghost Irish. And this song's
but there's a
called Me
ghost
Ma's
cover band from
Ghost.
Dublin.
Guinness Ghost.
Ooh.
It's a
Kiss
band.
My
Ghost
Fly.
Iris,
Yeah.
Kiss
not
My
Ghost
Stones.
Irish, the parody band.
Yeah.
Check these guys out. Let us know what you think if you've heard any of the singles. I think they're going to release one more single before the album comes out.
What's going on with these bands and releasing half your album before the album comes out? Just release the album.
So I think there may be 4, maybe by the time this review goes live. Let us know what you think if you've heard any of the singles, and let us know what you think of the album once you've heard of it. Happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on that one. That is the review. Thanks for checking it out. Much appreciated. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.